Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. So, worst case scenario is starting to come to fruition. And what is that? A Truth and Reconciliation Committee. And that's happening as we speak. So, from the New York Times, Congressional Committee presses cable providers on election fraud claims. Before a hearing scheduled for Wednesday, Democratic lawmakers of the House Energy and Commerce Committee asked cable companies what they did to combat the spread of misinformation. 3 months ago, federal lawmakers grilled Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, and Jack Dorsey, Twitter's chief, about the misinformation that had appeared on their platforms. Now, a congressional committee has scheduled a hearing to focus on the role of companies that provide cable television service and the spread of falsehoods concerning the 2020 election. In advance of the Wednesday hearing called Fanning the Flames, Disinformation and Extremism in the Media, members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee sent a letter on Monday to Comcast, AT&T, Spectrum, Dish, Verizon, Cox, and Atlas asking about their role in the spread of dangerous misinformation. The committee members also sent the letter to Roku, Amazon, Google, and Hulu, digital companies that distribute cable programming. The scrutiny of cable providers took on a new urgency after supporters of former President Donald J. Trump, who repeatedly promoted the debunked claim that the election was rigged, stormed the Capitol on January 6th. It doesn't help when you have Time Magazine release an article after Joe Biden was inaugurated, mind you, that, well, yes, the election was fortified. And my position on this is fairly consistent. One person's fortified is another person's rigged. You're talking about an argument over semantics. If I build a wall so high that you can't climb it and it's perfectly smooth, it's like glass and you have no grip, and I say the only way for you to make $1,000 is for you to climb this wall, and I fortify that wall to the point where I believe nobody can climb it, that person who wants that $1,000 is going to believe that the game is rigged and it's impossible to win. So one person's fortify is another person's rigged. It just depends on if you're on the winning or losing side, I suppose. To our knowledge, the cable, satellite, and over the top companies that disseminate the media outlets to American viewers have done nothing in response to the misinformation aired by these outlets. Two Democratic representatives from California wrote in a letter, which was reviewed by the New York Times. None of the companies to which the letter was sent immediately replied to requests for comment. Newsmax, a right wing cable channel carried by a bunch of companies, had a surge in ratings in November because of programs that embraced the former president's claim of voter fraud. One America's News Network, a right wing outlet carried by a few other news outlets, also promoted the false theory. Fox News, the most watched cable news network, which is available from all major carriers, was one of five defendants in a $2.7 billion defamation lawsuit filed this month by election technology company Smartmatic. In the suit, the company accused Fox News, its parent company Fox Corporation, and three Fox anchors and two frequent Fox guests of promoting false claims about the election and Smartmatic's role in it. Congress can raise the issue of whether cable providers bear responsibility for the programs they deliver to millions of Americans, but it may have no way to force them to drop networks that have spent or have spread misinformation. And that's scary. Why would you want Congress to force a company to not carry a brand? That is dystopian. And unlike broadcast stations, cable channels do not have licenses that are regulated by the FCC. The lawmakers' letter asks companies, what steps did you take prior to, on, and following the November 3rd, 2020 elections, the January 6th, 2021 attacks to monitor, respond to, and reduce the spread of disinformation, including encouragement or incitement of violence by channels your company disseminates to millions of Americans? Are you planning to continue carrying? And this is important, this part of it. This part is extremely important, and I'll show you why here in a second. Are you planning on or are you planning to continue carrying Fox News, OANN, and Newsmax on your platform both now and beyond the renewal date? The letter continues. If so, why? It's basically like we're sticking a gun to your head and we're going to ask you, are you feeling lucky? Do you want to basically I will pull this trigger unless you say you are no longer going to carry them. If you say you're going to keep carrying them because they make you a lot of money, guess what we're going to do? We're going to regulate you to death. So it's either you cut off your hand and survive, or we blow your brains out all over the side of the wall. That's essentially what Congress appears to be doing to these cable companies, and it's disgusting. Basically, if you voted for Biden, if you voted for Democrat, you voted for fascism, and you believe that this whole this whole fascistic thing that's going on, this whole dictatorial rule by the mainstream Democrats at the moment is tolerance. It's not tolerance. Unadulterated tolerance is somehow only leading to fascistic rule, and it's disturbing. Hey, let's censor people. We hate what you have to say, so we're going to ensure that you shut up and never can say anything again. How is that tolerant? You're only tolerant of people that you think that are less than you. Anybody who can stand up to you, because you've seen this in the election. You saw CNN's response to the Cuban population who voted for Trump. Oh, they're just white. And the black population who voted for Trump. Oh, multiracial whiteness. No, anybody who can stand up to the Democrat establishment is a threat and they must be destroyed. They don't care what color you are. You see the way they talk to gay conservatives. You see the way they talk to black conservatives, the way they talk to Hispanic conservatives, the way they talk to whatever you want, whatever adjective you want to use to describe that individual before the word conservative, they are automatically a racist, bigot, homophobe. I've never met a black, well, excuse me. I have met them, and that's actually the point. So I've never seen a black gay person be called a racist homophobe, right? Until I met liberals who were attacking gay black conservatives. So it's quite concerning. It's strange, right? It's like, how can a black man be racist against black people? He's black. You think it would be in his own self-interest to ensure that black people are treated fairly in the community. How can a gay man be a homophobe when he is in fact gay? Wouldn't you think he would act in his own self-interest and the interest of his own community in which he identifies with, right? But that's what Democrats are currently doing. They say, even if you are a black gay man, you are a racist homophobe. It doesn't make any sense at all. And that is concerning. Blair Levin, who served as the FCC's chief of staff under President Bill Clinton, said a hearing could be the first step towards meaningful action. You have to establish a factual record that on both the election and COVID, tens of millions of Americans believe things that are just factually not true, and then try to figure out what are the appropriate roles for the government in changing that dynamic. You know what? If you want to play this game, then we cannot just single out Fox News, OANN, and Newsmax. We need to also point out MSNBC, CNN, NBC. CNN and NBC both paid $35,000 each to a domestic terrorist who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Why aren't they being held liable for their actions and their direct funding of a domestic terrorist operation that had occurred within the United States? That is bananas. You know what? Let's just have one standard. This is an article from LiveZet from March 25th of 2019. Mueller's work is done. Trump's been vindicated, yet some outlets still want readers to take them seriously. The headline: so how fake is fake news? Media published 500,000 plus stories about Russia collusion. Now that we know the Trump-Russia collusion story the media had been obsessed with for 2 years was all a hoax, exactly how many stories did they put out about it? Over 500,000. Axios reports that since May 2017, exactly 533,074 web articles have been published about Russia and Trump. Mueller, which in turn have generated 245 million interactions, including likes, comments, and shares on Twitter and Facebook. So that misinformation is okay as long as it's about the orange man. Nancy Pelosi rattles on about Trump's Make America White Again hat. Nancy Pelosi could have dementia. She said that the president wants to make America white again because he has a perfectly reasonable desire to put the citizenship question back on the census. It was removed by then President Obama in 2010. A quote from Pelosi: "This is about keeping, Make America, his hat, Make America white again. They want to make sure that certain people are counted. It's really disgraceful, and it's not what our founders had in mind. What they want to do is put a chilling effect so certain populations will not answer the form, that they won't respond. Don't give them that victory. You must respond because otherwise they win." So what? You have basically you have the Speaker of the House going on news networks saying, "Oh, well, Donald Trump is just a Klansman. Let's go punch a Nazi. Oh, the MAGA hat may as well be a KKK hood, and let's make America white again." That's Nancy Pelosi saying that, and that's bonkers. And guess what? That was spread around the news. Let's jump over to the Daily Caller. Nancy Pelosi tells Democrats to throw a punch for the children. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that Democrats need to take punches and throw them during a public appearance Friday. So you have to be ready to take a punch. You have to be ready to take a punch, Pelosi said. And therefore, you have to be ready to throw a punch for the children. Throw a punch for the children. The California Democrat said. Pelosi has a history of making confused public statements. Basically, there you go. There's a call for violence. You have to throw a punch for the children because who wouldn't punch a Nazi to save the children, right? That's basically what's going on here. Hey, we're going to justify a bad act for a good reason because that good reason is more important than that bad act. And that's disgusting. And that's being pushed by the Speaker of the House, and that's also being pushed by news networks. And finally, this is from MSNBC, and this is a senator from Montana. Senator Tester said that in order to take on Trump, you have to punch him in the face. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Well, I think you don't take the bait that President Trump came out here. You say that what he has done is absolutely disgraceful to the country and call it for what it is, which is racism. And then you talk about things like high cost of health care, high cost of higher education, what you're going to do on the southern border to help stop the situation that's down there. I think the kind of issues that really hit home, how you're going to invest in infrastructure and how you're going to pay for it. I think those are the issues that really will move the folks who will get you elected. And I don't think, even in states where Donald Trump won big, that it does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face. I mean, the truth is this guy is bad for this country. Well, I think
Donald Trump is bad for the country, so we should punch him in the face. We should punch the President of the United States in the face. And that was spread on MSNBC. So what happens when people who watch MSNBC say, well, if I should punch Trump in the face, maybe I should punch that guy wearing a MAGA hat, filling his soda up at the drinking fountain. Maybe I should punch him in the face because it's okay to punch a Nazi because punching a Nazi is better than allowing that white supremacist to be a white supremacist, right? It's better to punch him in the face so he can learn his lesson that being a white supremacist, being the white supremacist in chief is the issue. You have Cori Bush saying it's the segregationists. Well, actually, no. Segregationist in chief is actually Joe Biden. The white supremacist in chief is Donald Trump, apparently, according to Congress people like Cori Bush. And so, but that's okay. It's okay to have that lying, incendiary speech, but only if it comes from one side. If the other side decides to stand up for themselves, I can only imagine. I believe that the Republican Party should run a black female president, preferably a lesbian. You know why? Or in 2024. You know why? It's because the left would lose their minds. And I'm sure there's plenty of high qualified black lesbian women who would be willing to run as president. Short of that, black woman, and then short of that, minority woman, and then short of that, just a minority. Run somebody that the Democrats can attack, because if they attack them, then they are racist, misogynistic, homophobe, whatever, and basically throw that intersectionality bullet in the Democrats' face and just basically say, if you want to attack our candidate, you are everything you said we were. Because guess what? We are the first party to nominate someone of the LGBTQIA community, or we're one of the first people to have nominated basically a black woman to be the president. Basically do something so crazy that the Democrats can't attack on an intersectional basis. And I think that's going to be the only way for Republicans to kind of go ahead in the short term. Basically create a malfunction in the Democratic algorithm. By Democratic, I mean from the Democrat coalition. The Democrat algorithm is basically attack the RNC, attack the GOP as if they are all white supremacists. Basically make it to where if you just run an entire field of nothing but minorities or women or people in the LGBTQIA community, then what are the Democrats going to attack? They can attack the candidate based on their physical characteristics, right? Or their personal, the way they act, because guess what? Then they would be everything that they claim the GOP to be. So that's going to be it for now, friends. I'll post another video up here in a couple hours. Until then, I'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.